everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I am going to start work on this brown building here. I don't know, warehouse, dock, I don't know exactly what it's going to be, but right now I'm trying to get the corner sealed back up. I don't know what I've done with some of the adhesives that I've been using. This plastic weld just doesn't seem to really do that well. I thought I had a Tamiya that I put everything together with, but for some reason I can't get into it. And I got these BSIs, which are really good. You can actually tell this one's really good because it tipped over at one point. This one's the thin, super thin, Instacure. and they're $30, so I didn't really want to waste it, but I've only used a little bit out of this, and it tipped over on a mat that I used to have, and it leaked, and I cannot for the life of me get that off of there. So I ended up having to cut the the old mat off of there, and yeah, so I can't get that open right now, and I don't have a pair of pliers, so right now I'm just using the Plastruct, hoping that that will work for now. So I was going to get that ready and painted, but since that's curing, I'm going to go ahead to the platforms for the dock area. So right now what I'm doing, I don't think I did before, it definitely doesn't feel like it. This one kind of does, but I'm just coming in here and cutting off where the sprue was, and then just filing them down, getting them nice and flat, and then I will paint them. And I'm not too sure if I'm going to weld these together right away. I've got some putty that can kind of fill in the little gap, or I can just leave it as like an expansion gap, but I will see which way they will work best at a later point. All right, so I have gotten them as flat as I really can. Some of these just don't want to trip down all that much. I might go over them a little bit more, but I think they'll be all right. The problem is I think some of these, like this one here, actually took out some of the, when I pulled it off the sprue, it pulled some of the actual plastic, so it almost is like the mold didn't mold quite right, but it'll be all right. That can be literal chips out of the concrete, so I'm not too worried about that. I'm going to now make my color. I don't have an actual concrete color, but I do have a couple of Tamiya paints. I've got Dectan XF55 and Medium Gray XF20. And they are both kind of a concrete color. I like this one's a little darker, this one's a little bit more creamy, so I'm going to add probably 2 to 1 of those, and then just a few little spots, and then I'm going to put in the isopropyl. I got 91. I know people like Boomer, tend to do 99, but I keep forgetting to order it, so off of Amazon or whatever, and 91 is the only thing I've ever found on store shelves, so it's good enough. I think I've heard that anything over at least 70 is good enough for this. I've also got an old paint mixing bottle. I got a couple of others that still had some color in it with the IPA, and they look like they'd be all right to mix up with these, but I think I'm going to take this because, again, that's a little lighter, so I think it'll kind of, to me, this is all, I'm a chemist. it's just, you wing it. That's the way I do it. So gonna mix my color up and then get the airbrush going and get these set out to paint. All right, now my air compressor, I'm sure, is going to keep going off and on, so I apologize for the noise. But yeah, I've got my mixture here. I don't know if you're really going to be able to see it, but I think it's a pretty nice little brown kind of concrete color. It'll work for me. Try not to get this all over the place, of course. Like I already did. Got it all over the place. Apparently I missed the cup, but yeah, it'll be all right. It's mostly IPA anyway, so I'm just using my cheap Pache gun that came with the kit. I've already run some straight up IPA through just to make sure that it works all right, but might be a little too much IPA in there. Be all right. All right, so unfortunately my gimbal here ended up dying. I need to charge it, but I basically went ahead and got things painted up the best as I could. There was way too much IPA. Yeah, I'm gonna admit that right now. There was way too much IPA, so it took a little bit to get the concrete done. I went ahead and got this painted as well. You can see the original Walthers brown, and I've got spray painted, and of course you can see on the bottom there, it's not the greatest. There is some streaking, but that is fine. I wanted to basically just get rid of that brown because I'm going to have kind of a cream paint over this, and I'm going to try something. I found this at Hobbytown last time I went there. It is Rail Center Scratches Effect. I'm going to put this down. I believe this would have to be dry for it to go down, and I'm going to apply it and see if I can't get some sort of an effect where the building has been painted a white. I'll do like a cream to kind of give it a little bit of a weathered age look to it, and then try picking it out. So I'm going to try something different on that, but I think I'm glad this is finally starting to come to fruition, because it was sitting there and it wasn't getting used because it didn't feel natural on the layout. So yeah, and of course I taped over the windows and the door. I'll get to painting those by brush or something later on when I figure out what trim color I want to do. All right, so I am back and we have the building painted. I've let it dry for, I don't know, a couple hours. And again, you can see some streaks. I'm not worried about that at all. This is going to be underneath the dock. Anyways, there's going to be a roof, and like I said, it's going to be painted white. So with the chipping effect, you're not going to notice streaks, as well as it gives some variance to the brick color. So I actually wish I would have done a little bit more, well, not more, but I guess less painting, and made it a little bit more blotchy, but whatever, it's good. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on, and you can airbrush it. I don't really want to shove stuff through my airbrush that I'd have to really clean up. The one thing I like about using the Tamiya is with this stuff, you put in enough IPA and cleaning is a breeze. I will be painting with the Vallejo Model Air, or Model Color. It's an ivory. And I know if I stick some reducer, and I've got reducer, it'll go through as well, but it takes so much more to clean, and it's harder to go through. I'm just so used to the Tamiya at this point. So both of them, I am going to use a sponge, and I picked up just a bunch of these sponges, like a pack at the dollar store or something. It was ridiculously cheap. I've got a whole drawer full of them here, so I'm going to sponge it on and then let this stuff dry for about a half hour, 45 minutes or so. Come back, and then I'm going to sponge on the paint and then let that dry, and then we'll come back and do the scratching effect. All right, I apologize for the awkward angle that this is at, but it's the best that I can do. So I've done the chipping or the scratching underneath this, put this on, let it dry, put the white on, and I've let that dry to a point that it's at least tacky. And now I'm in here, I got a little bowl of water off camera here, a little bowl of water, and I've got a thicker, harder stipple type brush that I am just loading my paintbrush up and dabbing most of the water off, and then just rubbing the model and kind of getting the water all over the place. Now I'm gonna add a little bit more. Just putting it on there like that, and then I am rubbing it. Now it's a little dry. It's kind of hard to tell if it's dry or if it's not dry, but I'm just kind of rubbing it all along here, and eventually you will start to see it chip away just as it is there. It's starting to come along. So you can take as much or as little as you want off, and it's starting to come off there. And then I just kind of dab some of this off because it does seem to have a pink tinge to it, and I'm not sure if it's pulling the paint that's underneath the red hull or the hull red that I put on there. But also I'm taking this little Crafters Q-tip type deal, and I'm getting in there, and that really kind of helps get a little finer detail. Let's get some of that off. Yeah, there we go. See, look at that. Just like that. So I'm just going kind of around, and I want to take off quite a bit. I don't want to leave too much. I want it to look like it hasn't been painted in 20 years or so, or maybe even longer. But that gives you the gist of what you're doing. I've already done this side over here. I'm gonna come back and revisit it, but it looks pretty good the way that it is. Might take a little bit more off, and you can kind of see, I don't know if with the lighting or not, but this is a little pink here, so I might come back and wet that and try to wipe it off a little bit more. So I'm going to continue doing this off camera just because it's kind of awkward, and I will be back. There is the current state of the building. I think it turned out pretty well. I'm not done yet. I still want to do some weathering, get some dirt on there, but I think it turned out pretty well. The scratch paint worked pretty well. The white paint was pretty thick on there. It was a little harder to get off, but I think overall it did pretty well. Went for the effect that, or I got the effect that I was looking for. And then once I was done that part, getting the scratch off and everything, I have thrown a clear coat over it to make sure that it doesn't, get any more scratched up or get fouled up. So now I can go in there with some browns and grays or whatever I'm gonna choose. Haven't figured it out quite yet, but then I can do some weathering. Same with the concrete. I haven't done anything that's not clear coated yet. I was going to, but I forgot. So, but I'll probably just weather it and then clear coat it to make sure that it's sealed. So I'm going to end this video here. Now I'm making a short little one, and hopefully I'll continue on a little bit more tomorrow. Maybe even tonight I might crack open the box and take a look at the roof and that sort of stuff, try to start figuring that stuff out. So anyways, that is going to wrap this one up. Thank you so much for watching, and happy railroading.